Hi, I would like to share with you a bit of scriptures. Matthew chapter 23 is two verses, verses 23 and 24. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites, for ye pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought you to have done, and not to leave the other undone. You blind guides, which strain at a gnat and swallow a camel. Yeah, those scriptures right there are talking about one of the seven woes that Jesus pronounced on the scribes and Pharisees. That in this case, Jesus was condemning the condemning the scribes and Pharisees of basically doing the bare minimum of like being faithful unto God and His commandments, and yet they leave the other things done, like what the weightier matters of the law, like judgment and mercy and faith, and that's something that we have a problem with in this day and age. Now the now tithing is was part of ancient Israel, because the tithe was used to support the Levites in their ministry, because they serve God day and night in the temple of God, and 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 the Levites themselves were commanded to pay a tithe from their earnings. I mean, so that there will be food in the God's house, that the poor might eat, and that and apparently the Pharisees and scribes have been faithful in that portion of God's law, that they pay a tithe of everything, even down to the spices that they use, but they ignore everything else. It's like what I said, and what I point out in book of Jeremiah, chapter 7. And it's like when God was saying, will you steal, murder, commit adultery, swear falsely, burn incense unto Baal, and walk after other gods whom you know not, and then come and stand before me in this house, which is called by my name, and say, we are delivered to do all these abominations? I mean, is this house, which is called by my name, become a den of robbers in your eyes? Behold, even I have seen it, says the Lord. And of course, God back then was condemning the Israelites, the Jews, of basically breaking every other commandment of the law, and just they and yet they keep the Sabbath, and just so they're faithful in that respect, but they're not faithful in everything else. And of course, Jesus himself says in the Sermon on the Mount, think not that I'm come to destroy the law or the prophets. I'm not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, until heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, until all be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men to do so, he shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do these commands and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees, you shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. I mean, Jesus was very adamant that that all the law has to be fulfilled. I mean, because Jesus came to fulfill all the law. He would not leave one jot or one tittle unfulfilled, and he's basically expecting everyone else to do the same. That except your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees, then you shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. And how this applies to modern audiences, they're just they're people who are just like they adhere to one part of the law of God, particularly Jesus' commandments and stuff. And yet they ignore everything else. I mean, they're people who would adhere to Jesus' commands of holiness and righteousness, but they ignored his commands concerning mercy, compassion, charity, forgiveness. And there are some that some others that do the opposite. They obey the commands of being merciful, forgiving, charitable, having compassion. Yet they ignore commands concerning holiness and righteousness, because because we're commanded to be holy as God our Father is holy, and writer of Hebrews says that without holiness no one shall see the Lord. And of course these separate people right there are like they favor one aspect of God and Jesus Christ, yet they ignore the other aspects. I mean, and Jesus is saying in that verse in that verse in Matthew chapter 23, that you should do those things without ignoring the other things, without leaving the other things undone. And he ends up comparing this to like what he says, you strain out a gnat but you swallow a camel. I mean, the Jews at the time basically use like a net or something to pour their liquids or water to strain out unclean animals like insects, so that you don't accidentally pollute the drink that they're drinking, and just yet they swallow a bigger unclean animal, which is a camel, and it's like you pick out the little things in the law that are talked about, or I talk about it, and yet you ignore everything else in favor of that one little bit. And I keep thinking of like people, those who keep picking about abortion and homosexuality, and two things that Jesus doesn't talk about much, even though he is God, and he is God, has spoken to people in the Old Testament about these things, particularly homosexuality and child sacrifice, and they pick on that little tiny thing, and yet they ignore everything else. That's pretty much all I have to share with you in this video. So have a good day, and may God bless you.